On the cold, wind-swept waters of the South Atlantic, a conflict was unfolding that would test skill, courage, and endurance on both sides of the battlefield. It was May 25, 1982, Argentina's Revolution Day, and also the 53rd day of the Falklands War. For the Argentine pilots, it was more than a date on the calendar. It was a symbol of national pride, a reminder of the struggle for territory they called the Malvinas. For the British, it was another day of relentless tension. Another day their ships and crews faced the threat of low-flying attack aircraft, appearing suddenly out of the endless horizon. What happened on that day would become one of the most dramatic moments of the entire war. The sinking of HMS Coventry by Argentina A-4B Skyhawks. The Royal Navy had deployed ships in a defensive posture known as the radar picket line. These were vessels positioned far from the main task force, sometimes alone, sometimes with a single companion to detect inbound Argentine aircraft early enough so that British fighters or anti-air systems could respond. It was a vital, dangerous task. Over the previous days, British ships on this outer line had already suffered. The crews were exhausted, operating with minimal support, thousands of miles away from home, and with little margin for error. Coventry, a Type 42 destroyer, had been serving in this role for 3 consecutive days. By the morning of May 25th, her men were tired, but they knew that any lapse in focus could be deadly. For the Argentinians, the odds were no better. Their pilots flew outdated jets, A-4B Skyhawks that lacked modern radar, lacked chaff dispensers, lacked electronic warning sensors, and lacked guided weapons. They had simple, unguided iron bombs, and their enemies were ships specifically designed to shoot down attacking aircraft. But the Argentine pilots had something else, the absolute determination to strike back against the Royal Navy, to protect what their nation believed was theirs, and to demonstrate to the world that even older aircraft, flown with skill and bravery, could shape the course of battle. Every time they took off, they understood the risks. By the time of the Coventry attack, Argentina had already lost dozens of aircraft and many pilots. Yet they flew again. As dawn broke over the ocean on May 25th, British ships were already tense. Intelligence and radar plots indicated that Argentina was likely to attempt a major strike to coincide with Revolution Day. Coventry was positioned northwest of the main task force alongside HMS Broadsword, a modern Type 22 frigate equipped with advanced missile systems. Together, they were intended to form a deadly trap. Coventry's long-range Sea Dart missiles would engage incoming aircraft at distance, and Broadsword's short-range Seawolf missiles would finish off any that slipped through. But war rarely goes according to plan. Across the water, Argentine pilots were preparing for another day of dangerous sorties. 4 A-4B Skyhawks flown by young men who had survived previous missions received their orders. Their target zone was to the northwest of the islands, where British radar picket ships were known to patrol. They were told to fly at extremely low altitudes, sometimes just meters above the ocean surface, to evade British radar. Every second they maintained this altitude increased the chance of deadly impact with the water, but popping up too early meant death by missile. They fueled their jets, loaded 500-pound unguided bombs under the wings, and carried with them the memory of fellow pilots who would never return. Back on Coventry, tension grew. The crew had seen action before and knew Argentina's tactics: low-altitude attacks, high speed, and sudden appearances on radar screens too late for comfort. The ship's captain, David Hartdyke, was aware that the destroyer had become a high-value target. They had already been under attack in previous days. Every man aboard understood the risk, but Coventry's presence on the picket line was essential for the safety of the rest of the task force. Around midday, British radar detected signs of possible incoming aircraft. Coventry's crew prepared for action. Weapons were manned. The Sea Dart system was ready. Broadsword kept close formation, prepared to launch Seawolf missiles if needed. But clouds and radar shadows made it difficult to track low-level attackers. For hours the sky remained quiet. Pilots and sailors on both sides waited, knowing that silence rarely lasted long. Far to the west, the 4 Argentine Skyhawks skimmed the ocean. Their fuel margins were tight, giving them only minutes over the target before they would have to turn back. The pilots flew in 2 groups, each intending to strike from different angles to confuse British defenses. As they approached the target area, they saw nothing at first, just water, waves, and the distant outline of land. Then suddenly, they spotted the faint gray silhouette of 2 British warships. Inside Coventry's operations room, alarm sounded. Lookouts shouted. Radar operators scrambled to confirm the threat. The incoming jets appeared suddenly, far closer than expected. Sea Dart missiles needed enough time and distance to lock on something low-flying aircraft often denied them. Hart-Dyke ordered defensive maneuvers. Coventry accelerated and began to turn to bring her missile systems to bear. The first pair of Skyhawks came in from the south. Coventry fired Sea Darts, but the missiles failed to hit. The jets, barely above the water, were moving too fast and too low for the system to respond effectively. Broadsword tried to engage them with Seawolf, but the frigate's guidance system temporarily froze a malfunction that occurred at the worst possible moment. The Skyhawks streaked overhead, dropping their bombs, which missed. They roared past, disappearing into the horizon, having survived their attack run. But the danger was far from over. The second pair of Skyhawks, piloted by Lieutenant Mariano Velasco and Ensign Jose Barrinuevo, approached at unbelievable low altitude. They used the sea itself as cover, their jets hugging the waves as they closed in on Coventry. The ship attempted to maneuver to give Broadsword a better missile solution, but the sudden turns disrupted Broadsword's Seawolf again. The British missile trap formation was falling apart. The Skyhawks popped up at the last possible moment. Velasco saw Coventry turning, her gray hull slicing through the waves. He lined up his attack, ignoring the tracers and the Sea Dart launcher pointed directly at him. His aircraft was fast, vulnerable, and old, but this was his mission. He released his bombs, then pulled hard to escape the blast zone. 3 heavy bombs fell toward Coventry. *1 skipped off the sea and struck Broadsword's deck but failed to detonate. 2 others hit Coventry. 1 bomb struck near the port side, tearing through compartments and erupting in a column of fire. Another hit the destroyer amidships, causing catastrophic damage. In seconds, flames spread through the interior. Smoke poured out. The ship immediately took on a list. Power failed in multiple sections. Men were trapped in compartments. Others rushed to help them, choking on smoke as they tried to reach the wounded. On the bridge, Hart-Dyke realized the truth. Coventry was dying. Below decks, sailors fought to save the ship. Fire parties tried desperately to reach the bomb damage, but the flames were spreading too rapidly. The list increased. Communications failed. The Sea Dart launcher was crippled. Within minutes, Coventry was leaning dangerously to port. Hart-Dyke gave the order to abandon ship. The crew moved quickly but carefully. Many jumped into the cold sea. Others climbed onto Broadsword, which had moved alongside to assist despite having suffered damage itself. As Coventry rolled further, the sound of groaning metal filled the air. The ship's stern lifted slightly, water rushing in through the bomb-torn hull. Men in the water looked back in disbelief as the destroyer that had protected them for weeks now fought a final, losing battle against gravity and the sea. At 18:05, just minutes after being hit, Coventry capsized. Her keel rose above the surface, hung there briefly, then she slipped beneath the waves. 19 British sailors lost their lives. More than 250 survived. thanks in part to the quick actions of Broadsword's crew and the bravery of Coventry's own men. Asterisk. As the Skyhawks flew back toward Argentina, low on fuel, some pilots were unsure if their bombs had struck. But when they landed, they learned that one of the Royal Navy's key destroyers had been sunk. Their mission had succeeded. Asterisk for Britain. The loss of Coventry was a severe blow. The destroyer had been one of the most important air defense ships in the area, and her presence had shielded the rest of the task force from repeated attacks. Her sinking left a dangerous gap, but it did not change the overall course of the war. British forces continued their advance on the islands, eventually securing victory weeks later. Yet the memory of Coventry, her crew, and the courage of both sides remained etched into the story of the conflict. Asterisk in the years that followed, the sinking would be studied by militaries around the world. Some analysts pointed to flawed tactics, mechanical failures, and unfortunate timing. Others focused on the bravery displayed on all sides, the determination of Argentine pilots flying obsolete jets into deadly conditions, and the resilience of British sailors who fought to save their ship and comrades under impossible circumstances. The events of May 25th became symbolic of the war's human cost. Asterisk. For Argentina, the attack on Coventry became a point of pride, demonstrating that even under-equipped pilots could inflict serious damage through courage and skill. For Britain, Coventry became a symbol of sacrifice, a reminder of the dangers faced by the men tasked with defending the fleet on the edge of the operational area. Asterisk today, the story of the A-4 Skyhawks and the sinking of HMS Coventry still resonates. It is a reminder that in war, the difference between survival and destruction can be measured in seconds, meters, or the malfunction of a single system. It is a reminder that bravery is not limited by technology or rank, and that the sacrifices made by individuals can echo far beyond the battlefield. And it is a reminder that history is rarely simple. It is made up of countless moments of fear, determination, miscalculation, and heroism. Asterisk on that cold May afternoon in 1982. Over the wind-swept waters of the South Atlantic, 4 Argentine pilots and aging Skyhawks defied the odds and altered the course of the day. A British destroyer and her crew paid a terrible price, fighting to the end in the service of their nation. And the Falklands War, already a conflict of intense emotion on both sides, gained another chapter that would be studied, debated, and remembered for decades to come. Asterisk, what happened between those Skyhawks and HMS Coventry is not just a story of a ship that sank. It is a story of men at war, of decisions made in seconds, of courage shown in the face of overwhelming danger. And above all, it is a story of how history can turn on the smallest of moments, the flicker of a radar screen, the angle of a ship's turn, the failure of a missile system, or the resolve of a pilot who believes he must complete his mission, no matter the cost. Asterisk as the sea closed over Coventry, taking with it 19 sailors and a proud ship's history. The surviving crew were pulled from the water and taken to safety. Many wept. Many stared silently at the empty space where their ship had once been. And though the war continued, though battles still remained to be fought, the memory of that day would remain with them for the rest of their lives. Asterisk, even today, decades later, veterans of both sides still recall the events of May 25th with a mixture of pride, sorrow, and respect for the bravery displayed. The story of the Skyhawks and HMS Coventry remains one of the most powerful examples of the human dimension of modern warfare, where technology meets courage, and where the outcome is decided not only by machines, but by the people who operate them. Asterisk over the South Atlantic, the wind still blows cold. The waves still roll across the empty sea. And somewhere beneath those waters lies the wreck of HMS Coventry, a silent reminder of a day when determination, skill, and sacrifice collided in one of the most dramatic air-sea engagements of the Falklands War. Asterisk.